All right, I'm going to start this off with a fair warning. This is probably going to be a really long video, but we got to talk about this guy and what he's been up to for the last couple of days. You know how Muskrat basically wrecked Twitter after tearing apart its systems without actually understanding how they worked? Well, I want you to imagine the same exact chaos, but now applied to the entire US federal government, because that's what's happening. And it's a lot scarier than him just ruining Twitter this time. Because when I look at how he handled the Twitter takeover, there was two giant red flags in how he operates. He bulldozes systems without a clue of how they actually function, and he replaces what he thinks are imperfect working solutions with way worse alternatives. Now here's the real kicker. Musk is a private citizen, right? He's got zero constitutional authority, and now he's basically taking over critical parts of the government. The Constitution requires Senate approval for anyone wielding that kind of federal power, but Musk is ignoring all of that, installing his own people everywhere, and pushing out anybody who disagrees with him. It's basically like the whole Twitter mess all over again, but on a much, much larger scale. Because at Twitter, he turned a platform that was used by millions of people into his own personal echo chamber, and he lost 60 to 85% of its revenue in the process. But Twitter was just a company. Now he's doing the same thing to the United States government, and the stakes are way higher. The constitutional violations here are massive. At Twitter, Musk broke a social media platform through sheer incompetence, and now he's breaking the actual mechanisms of governance using the exact same reckless playbook. Now, the authors of Character Limit, which was a book written about his Twitter takeover, had this to say when the news broke out that Musk and his team took control of the Office of Personnel Management and skipped past key officials to release an email asking federal workers to resign or get in line. An email landed in employees' inboxes with the subject line "Fork in the Road." The message in the email was stark: accept a sweeping set of workplace changes or resign. That was the note that millions of federal workers received around 5 p.m. on Tuesday. It echoed a similar message that thousands of workers at Twitter got from Elon Musk in late 2022 after he bought the company. Mr. Musk, who also leads Tesla and SpaceX, has enlisted the help of a team of loyalists to assess agencies and make cuts, the same thing that he did during the Twitter takeover. Now, Steve Davis, the head of Mr. Musk's tunneling startup The Boring Company, helped oversee cost-cutting at Twitter and now leads Doge. Brian Bejeldy, a longtime human resources executive at SpaceX, who also helped during the Twitter takeover, is now an advisor to the Office of Personnel Management. Michael Grims, a top banker at Morgan Stanley who helped lead Mr. Musk's Twitter acquisition, is expected to take a senior job at the Commerce Department. One of Musk's software engineers at Tesla, Thomas Shedd, was named the head of Technology Transformation Services at the General Services Administration, which helps manage federal agencies. These are just some of the loyalists that he has working with him. Now, Wired magazine, which also has been pointing out the scary similarities between Musk's Twitter takeover and what's happening with the federal government, just dropped an even more terrifying article about how wildly unqualified Musk's so-called team really is. So I'm going to read part of this article now. According to the same sources, other people at the top of the new OPM, so the Operating Personnel Management food chain, include two people with apparent software engineering backgrounds whom Wired is not naming because of their ages. One, a senior advisor to the director, is a 21-year-old whose online resume touts his work for Palantir, the government contractor and analytics firm confounded by billionaire Peter Thiel, who is its chairman. The former CEO of PayPal and a longtime Musk associate, Thiel is a Cheeto Man supporter who helped bankroll the 2022 Senate campaign of his protege, Vice President J.D. Vance. The other, who reports directly to Scales, graduated high school in 2024, according to a mirrored copy of an online resume in his high school students magazine. He lists jobs as a camp counselor and a bicycle mechanic among his professional experiences, as well as a summer role at Neuralink, which is Musk's brain-computer interface company. Among the new higher-ups at OPM is Noah Peters, an attorney whose LinkedIn boasts of his work in litigation representing the National Rifle Association and who has written for right-wing outlets like the Daily Caller and the Federalist. He is also a senior advisor to the director And according to metadata associated with the file on the OPM website, Peters authored a January 27 memo that went out under acting OPM Director Charles Ezel's name, describing how the department would be implementing one of Cheeto Man's executive orders, which was restoring accountability to policy influencing positions within the federal workforce. This has to do with what's sometimes known as Schedule F, a plan to recategorize many civil service jobs as political appointees, meaning that they would be tied to the specific agenda of an administration rather than viewed as career government workers. The order would essentially allow for career civil servants to be removed in order of Cheeto Man loyalists by classifying them as political appointees. This is a key part of Project 2025. Now, for all the whining from Muskrat and his fans about hiring unqualified people, which, let's be real, is just coded language for not white, not male, and not cisgendered, it's absolutely wild that he's hired a kid whose main experience is being a camp counselor into a high-level government position. But this isn't just about who's getting hired. It's about him tearing down government institutions from the inside out, piece by piece. And it's getting scarier by the day because there's already a lawsuit over the fork in the road email, which was sent out through a sketchy, hastily set up server that almost definitely breaks federal laws. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, because reports are coming in that Musk is basically taking over chunks of the government. He showed up at the General Services Administration right after his Twitter right-hand man Steve Davis told them that they were canceling a bunch of government building leases, something that Musk also did at Twitter. And it gets worse, because Wired found out that Musk's buddies are using the GSA to try and access all kinds of systems, like remote access to laptops and even reading government employees' emails. Like, it's a full-on takeover and it's terrifying. So let's keep reading a little bit from this Wired article. There also appears to be an effort to use IT credentials from the Executive Office of the President to access GSA laptops and internal GSA infrastructure. Typically, access to agency systems requires workers to be employed at such agencies. While Musk's team could be trying to obtain better laptops and equipment from GSA, sources fear that the mandate laid out in the DOGE executive order would grant the body broad access to GSA systems and data. That includes sensitive procurement data, data internal to all the system and services the GSA offers, and internal monitoring software to get surveillance of GSA employees as part of normal auditing and security processes. The access could give Musk's proxies the ability to get remote access into laptops, listen in on meetings, read emails, among many other things. Then, after all this, on Friday morning, things got even scarier because reports came out that Musk got into a huge fight with David Lebrick, who's the longest-serving non-political employee of the Treasury Department, and Lebrick ended up resigning after Musk demanded access to the U.S. Treasury payment system. So typically only a small number of career officials control Treasury payment systems run by the Bureau of the Fiscal Service. The sensitive systems control the flow of more than $6 trillion annually to households, businesses, and more nationwide. Tens, if not hundreds of millions of people across the country rely on the systems, which are responsible for distributing Social Security and Medicare benefits, salaries for federal personnel, payments to government contractors and grant recipients, and tax refunds, among tens of thousands of other functions. So now the highest ranking career official at the Treasury Department is departing after a clash with the allies of billionaire Elon Musk over access to sensitive payment systems. So after David left yesterday, today the Orange Cheeto Man's administration gave a green light for Musk's team to access the government payment system. And the system handles, again, trillions of dollars in things like Social Security and tax refunds and federal salaries. And the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, now approved the plan, allowing Musk's guy, Tom Krause, to get read-only access, meaning he can see the system, but supposedly he can't make any changes. So obviously this pissed off Musk, and now he's claiming that the government efficiency team found that Treasury officials were apparently approving payments to fraudsters and even terrorist-linked organizations, but of course he provided zero evidence to back up his claims. And the Treasury already has fraud detection systems in place that have prevented and recovered billions, and the Biden administration even introduced AI tools to catch bad payments. So his claims are just an excuse to get his people inside the system. So again, here's the thing. This guy has not been nominated for any official official government role, and the Senate hasn't even had a chance to review or approve anything that he's doing, but he's acting like he's in charge anyway, and he's slashing and cutting through government system like he owns the place. And guess what? He's breaking a ton of laws in the process, and courts are already stepping in to try to stop him, but who knows if they're gonna have any luck before this whole thing spirals out into a full-blown constitutional crisis. If you stuck around till the end, good for you, but this is all so crazy. Like, how do you guys feel about all of this?